everyone, welcome back to my channel if you've been here before. If not, welcome. My name's Ashley and I'm addressing all things Summerween today. I'm very excited. I'm a huge Halloween fan. I'm here in my spooky shirt. I love horror movies and thrillers and really enjoy reading psychological thrillers most of the time. So as soon as I found out about Summerween, I knew I really wanted to participate. So today I'm pretty much going to be going over my reading plans for the readathon as well as doing the Summerween tag. Today's the first day of the readathon, so I wanted to get that out there before I really dive in and do my reading. This is one of the books I'll be reading, but I'm super excited. The prompts are really chill in terms of readathons that I've seen and participated in the past, so it really allowed me to pick a lot of different books that I was interested in, had on my TBR, and even new ones that I didn't know about before. So I'm really excited. All of these books I'm going to be reading in physical and listening to audiobook, or one of them I have on ebook and I'm going to be listening to audiobook as well, just because I love an audiobook experience when it comes to thrillers and horrors. They spook me so much, and that's what I want out of my books, especially because I feel like usually when I'm doing this reading, I'll be a couple chapters and I'm like, I know exactly who did it already, so I want to still be able to enjoy the book. So we're gonna pick up audios for all of these as well. The first book I'm gonna be reading is Ace of Spades, and this is for the Read in the Dark prompt. This seems to be so cool. So essentially it's almost like Gossip Girl. These students are being attacked by this messaging system that's been set up and is anonymous, but the only two students who are being attacked are the only two black kids on campus, and as they continue to be attacked, they're trying to figure out why they're being pinpointed by this person, this system, and they set out to find these clues, and it's supposed to be this really great thriller, suspenseful moment, and I'm so excited for this. I love psychological thrillers specifically just because they have such a great aspect in talking about society and broader humanity and stuff like that, and this seems to be very present in this book while also giving you elements of kind of this back and forth in school system. Systematic racism seems to be present in this book in specific, and this huge mystery as to why they're being pinpointed, who's after them in this sense, who's out to get them, and I'm so excited for this. I think this one, out of all the books, might be the one that will creep me out most, which is why I want to read this one in the dark, but I'm really happy to pick this up. All of these are also library books, so very excited for that. The next is Read a Paranormal book. I honestly don't read books that are paranormal at this point in my life that aren't paranormal romances, so this one was a little bit more difficult for me, and I ended up picking Home Before Dark. I have read a bunch of books by Riley Sager in the past, and I have enjoyed them even when I figure out the ending before I've gotten to that point, so I really want to pick this one up. I think that in terms of what I've heard about the book, this tends to be one of Riley Sager's more confusing works, so I might not guess the ending, which is something I really want. But pretty much it's this haunted house kind of situation, paranormal, but we don't know for sure, where this girl's father pretty much gets famous, and their house and family gets famous based off of these books that her father wrote while she was younger, and I believe he ends up passing away, and he leaves the house to her, and she goes to the house pretty much to clean up and fix it up before she sells it, and while she's there she really has a lot of creepy experiences that make her believe that maybe the stories her father wrote weren't only just stories but are actually true, and that things might be happening in this house that aren't easily explained. So that sounds really fun. I also really love the cover. I'm a huge eerie, slimy green person when it comes to Halloween, so I really love this cover as well, and I'm excited to read that. I am not a huge fan of books that confuse me, so I'm hoping that the ending doesn't go completely left, but still really looking forward to it. Then I have The Troop. This is for Read a Horror. I have literally had The Troop on my TBR for so long, and I really want to pick this up now. I know that in terms of horror, this book tends to be like really gory, kind of like body horror, and those are things that like scare me genuinely. But pretty much I think it's a troop of Boy Scouts and they're on a trip. I think they're just pretty much like learning the ropes and stuff like that. And while they're there, a guy comes up to the shoreline. I think he was on the boat, and he starts freaking out. He's like asking them to like feed him. He's saying that he's like so hungry, and he starts eating like dirt and everything around him, almost like he has like pica or something. And it of course throws everybody off guard, but from that moment on everything gets spookier and spookier. I think there's definitely like a illness kind of element to this, so that will definitely freak me out. We're still living in the times that we are now, so that might give me a fair amount of anxiety, but I am looking to be spooked, so I'm hoping this is good. Then the last book that I really want to get to is the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. This one I have on ebook, so I'll be reading it on my Kindle. And pretty much this one is read a book with Halloween colors on the cover, so I'll put a little photo over here, but there's green on it, there's orange on it because I believe it's peaches, and there's also some like red because the peaches are like bleeding, and those all give me like spooky color vibes. I definitely am interested in picking this one up. I think in terms of the books that I've chosen, this one is the least like scary to me in terms of the premise, but apparently it's a group of women in the neighborhood. They get together, they have this book club, but they focus mostly on kind of like spookier topics, true crime and stuff like that. And they have a neighbor that moves in across the street, and one of them believes that he might be a vampire. And from there on out, they're pretty much trying to figure it out. I think most of the women don't really think he's a vampire, but the main character does. And she's pretty much like racing to the finish, trying to save people's lives by figuring this out and calling him out to be a vampire. So this seems like really fun, definitely more adventurous in terms of some of the other books. I think Ace of Spades might be on like the same wavelength where I'm trying to figure out this mystery with this person and pick up these clues with this person, so that'll be really interesting to read. I do hear that there's like some like gaslighting elements because nobody really wants to believe that like vampires are a thing. Nobody believes in vampires readily, so a lot of people in her group and her friends and like the neighborhood pretty much doesn't believe her, even though it seems to be that he is, so that should be interesting. Other than that, the last prompt is bake or make a drink to go with your spooky read. I think I might be making pumpkin bread because I've had like the ingredients for it for a really long time and I just haven't gotten around to it. So I'm very excited for that. But that's pretty much like my TBR section. I'm hoping I get through all these books. I have been having like such an itch to read like horrors and thrillers, and the ones I've picked up recently I've really enjoyed, even if they haven't like totally shocked and spooked me. And I'm hoping that I find some new favorites in this like pile I got going. From here, we're gonna be doing the Summerween tag section. Alright, so welcome to the second half of the video where I'm pretty much gonna be doing the Summerween tag. The first question is, what spooky reads are you most excited about in your TBR list and pile right now? I think my top read is definitely Ace of Spades. Like I said, I love a mystery that really lets you dive into it. Like, I don't want to feel like an outsider, like I'm watching a film or something. I want to feel like I'm there with the characters, figuring out what's going on. I want to be scared with them. I want to feel anxious with them. I want to try to, like, figure out things before everything goes worse than they already are. And I definitely think that Ace of Spades gives me that vibe. I'm really excited for that book in particular, also because there is like race elements in it, which I always find to be really interesting. Like Get Out is one of my favorite movies. I love like breaking that movie apart psychologically. It's an amazing film, and I definitely think that that brings some elements to it. I also just feel like I love reading like Black people in horror where they're genuinely main characters and not there to be killed off really quickly or there for humor. Same thing when I read like queer characters in horror. I love having them in the forefront and not just being like a prop or a means to an end. So very excited for that. The second is, what's your favorite revenge novel? I think my favorite revenge novel is actually Emma in the Night. I randomly found that book on Goodreads, and I had it on my TBR for a really long time until I finally picked it up and read it. And I thought it was really great and amazing just because I think in terms of horror, it's a really, really realistic horror. And it also centers mental health, but in a way that we don't see in horror. It's not about like somebody being schizophrenic or having DID or anything like that. It's just truly the horrors within a home and almost like a domestic thriller. It was really fun and really great because you see this girl pretty much put herself in a situation that she doesn't necessarily feel safe, but she knows that she needs to get this done because she needs to beat her mom at her mom's own game. And it's done in a really subtle way. I don't think it's like a traditional revenge like plot line, but I thought it was really great and really amazing, and I enjoyed it personally, so I definitely think that's like my favorite revenge novel that could come off the top of my head. The next one is, what's a horror or thriller / crime book that you wish you can experience for the first time? Ooh. I actually think that I would go with A Woman in the Window, just because that is one of the few books that I feel like I picked up, and even though I knew how the end was gonna go, I had such a good time throughout the entire reading process. That doesn't happen for me usually. I feel like I'll read it and I'll be content with how it ended, or I'll read it and I'm like, yeah, I'm validated because what I thought definitely came true. But in that, I genuinely was still having such a great time. I was definitely still swept up in the story, even knowing how it was going to end before I got to that point. So I definitely think that that might be like one of my favorites in terms of something that I love that experience of reading it, and I wish that I could experience it again. Number 4 is Sucks to Sucks. You were just given a handful of your least favorite candy, the one that not even your siblings or friends will trade for. What candy is it, and what spooky book did you want to love that disappointed you? I wish I still had it because I just returned it to the library recently, but it would definitely be Dark Places. I just read it recently, like, I want to say a couple of days ago, and I wanted to love it, and I just did not. I felt like there was a lot of weird small plot points that made me uncomfortable. I didn't feel like they were necessary to the plot line. I didn't like the main character. I didn't like any of the smaller characters. There's definitely like a lot of satanic panic present throughout the entirety of the novel, which frustrates me in general because this is something that people genuinely struggled with. But also just the fact that I don't want to read that. I definitely love when horrors are realistic, but because it's such like a mob mentality when it comes to satanic panic, it's something that I tend to not enjoy, and it was like heavily present in that book. I also feel like the ending just was pretty unnecessary, a little over the top, kind of just, would this really happen? And I feel like the answer was no. So I really didn't enjoy that. In terms for candy, I think that the one candy that I don't hate it, I'll eat it, but I definitely don't like it, and none of my friends would probably trade for it, is definitely black licorice. I love licorice. I'm not against black licorice, but definitely would not be the first thing I pick up. I definitely would rather something else. So that would be it for me. The next one is time to put on your costume. If you could exist in one spooky novel, which one would it be? Who would your best friend be? Now, am I giving my best friend a, like, role that's already present in the novel? I want to say either The Last Time I Lied, or what's that one book by Ruth Ware? I have my laptop in my lap. Or In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. I don't necessarily love either of those books. I enjoyed both of them, but I don't think that they were good novels that I would, like, recommend readily. But I think both of them have, like, an atmosphere I really love. In the Dark, Dark Wood, you're basically, like, in the woods having this, like, I believe it was, like, a bachelorette party, and things get creepier and creepier. They get, like, really horrific as, like, time goes on. There's a lot of issues between the people who are in the house, so things are, like, really heightened and dramatic a lot of the time. They don't have, like, cell connection, so they really do feel isolated. And in the same way, The Last Time I Lied, they're at campgrounds. The connection isn't great over there. There's, like, a lot of spooky things happening. Both situations are, like, pretty isolated, and, like, there's a lot of shrouds of, like, darkness around, a lot of things that can't easily be explained, things turning around the corner, footprints, like, all those small elements I really, really love. And I think that if I was going to be in a horror plot, I would love to be in a horror plot like that, just because the atmosphere is so strong, and I feel like I would genuinely be terrified. In terms of, like, who my best friends would be, I feel like I wouldn't have a specific role for my, like, best friend, but I definitely think that I would bring my best friend Jakara, just because I feel like if I took off running in a direction, she's following me. There's not going to be, like, any question at hand about, like, what's going on. We're going to, like, figure this out together. And she's one of the few, like, people that I know that I can, like, trust without question. So I know that I wouldn't have to get to a certain point in the novel where I'm like, is she trying to screw me over as well? So that will kind of help. Like, it's nice to have somebody who you can put your full trust and, like, faith in, and she's definitely that person. And I definitely think that she would be in it with me to the very end. So I would say her. And I hope that both of those, like, books wouldn't be too terrifying for us, but we'll see. Then number 6, what's your favorite haunted house book and or television show? The Haunting of Hill House. That I read the book by Shirley Jackson, and while I thought the book was, like, really amazing and fun and spooky, oh my god, the show did it so well that it's the first time that I was like, the adaptation better than the, like, original text. I really, really enjoyed it. Thought it was amazing. Really scared me. I think that it has a lot of great elements that I enjoy in terms of family dynamics, like a lot of, like, hardship. There's also just, like, realistic horrors, like drug use and, like, enabling, like, drug users in your life, and just, like, how hard, like, the misuse of drugs can be on individuals and families, as well as, like, all these, like, horror elements. This is probably, like, one of the only shows or, like, film pieces that there's definitely, like, jump scares, but I think that they're so well done and they were actually genuinely spooky, other than me feeling like, okay, that's, like, a cheap, like, ploy to get somebody to, like, be scared. So I definitely enjoyed that so much. I don't think any book I read that has a haunted house element I've enjoyed as much as I did that show. Number 7 is the food question. You can only pick one from each. and it's pretty much what would you rather. So A is chocolate or sour candy. Definitely sour candy for me. I'm not a huge chocolate fan. I like dark chocolate, but that's pretty much it. And I like Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Then B is coffee or tea. I definitely think I like coffee and tea in equal amount, but I think I drink coffee more and I drink more types of coffee than I will drink tea. And then C is apple or pumpkin pie. And I actually hate pie, but I will eat an apple pie slice, like, very rarely, so I'm gonna say apple pie. 8 is show us your favorite book with a witch or a woman who gets screwed over by society and the patriarchy. I definitely think that recently I read, hold on. I'm not a professional, I'm just a reader. So, Rosemary's Baby I read recently. Oh my god, the gaslighting that is present. Towards the end of the book, the husband and doctor pretty much are like, we'll lock you up if you keep on being hysterical. And she's not being hysterical. Everything she's experiencing is valid. She's talking about how much pain she's in and how it's insufferable, and none of these men are listening to her for various reasons. But the only ones in the book who support her are her friends who are females, and some of them have been women who have given birth, and they're like, oh well, as females in society, blah 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 blah. And you see that them being a group of women and understanding childbirth and pain and just not being heard by men is the only thing that really has Rosemary be supported and feel like she deserves better, which she does. And then even when she brings that up to her husband, that her friends feel the same way about her predicament, her husband calls them really derogatory names, shuts down what they're saying as if he understands the experience of being a woman or being a pregnant person, and he doesn't. So I definitely say this. I didn't think it was horrible, but I didn't love it. Then from here, it's which book on your shelves or audiobook library has the scariest book cover. And I genuinely don't think any book that I read has a scary cover. Most of the books that I read nowadays have a lot of animated or simpler covers, even Rosemary's Baby, or I just recently got The Troop from the library. These are very basic covers. I don't think they're incredibly spooky. I do have the hollow places on my shelves, and that gives me an airy vibe, but I don't think that they scare me, and I don't think it's the scariest thing I've ever seen either. 10 is, it's Summerween and it's hot outside. What books do you recommend that give off summer vibes? Think lakes, cabins, beaches, etc. Whatever reminds you of summer. And I definitely think that I would say You. You definitely gives me summer vibes for some reason. There's definitely a lot of mention of the beach and them being outdoors a lot. And I also think that The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager, same thing. They're at this old campgrounds, and it definitely gives me summer vibes. There's no way to be at a summer camp without feeling this is a perfect spooky book for the summer. 11 is you and your friends are exploring a well-known haunted house. You get separated, and suddenly you hear screams coming from somewhere upstairs. You run into the next room and find 2 of your friends. Which 2 fictional characters are they? Who do you want in this situation with you? This also super hard because I read mostly romance at this point, and I definitely think that I have some romance characters that they'll show up where they need to, but when it comes to fictional characters in general, I don't know, because I want somebody who is strong, who will believe me, and who won't freak out. I need somebody to be level-headed because I'm going to shut down emotionally so I can be as logical as possible, and I'll still have those anxious thoughts in my mind, and I need somebody who will stay calm as well so I don't start to freak out. You know what? I'm actually going to look up some characters and I will be back. Okay. So I decided some of it's slightly a cheat. Okay, so I definitely decided that I'm going with Chris Washington from Get Out. Like I said, even if he doesn't believe me, he's gonna stay calm, level-headed, just like in the situation with like me and my best friend. I definitely think that if I took off running, he's running behind me. He's not gonna ask any questions. Love that. Also, I'm weak, and I feel like he'll be able to fight somebody off for me. And then I was thinking that I would do Sydney Prescott from Scream, but then I also feel like she's almost too stupid to live. And that's just too much. Like, I can't deal with the crying or anything. So I'm gonna say, and it's kind of cheating, but I want to say Lorraine Warren from the Conjuring movies, specifically The Conjuring 2. She does not care what situation she's in. She's there for Ed, and I need somebody who's there for me. Plus, she has, like, her medium powers. She's able to do, like, a lot of, like, clairvoyant stuff. And that's somebody you want on your team. I know that's not super accurate to, like, the real-life Warrens, but I'm being specific. We're gonna loophole it. Then number 12 is Trick or Treat. Stephen King, H.P. Lovecraft, Mary Shelley, and Shirley Jackson are at your front door. Who do you give the best and biggest candy bar to? And I'm going with Stephen King just because love Stephen King horror movies. I love The Shining. I love Pet Sematary. It, I think, is, like, amazing. I love those movies. I haven't picked up any of the books, but those are definitely, like, an author's backlist that I want to address at some point. So I'm going to say him. Then we have 13. What's your favorite spooky book to movie adaptation where both of them are good? This is really hard. I don't think I have read any book to movie adaptation that I've absolutely loved, where I think both of them are good. I definitely think that I always have one that I like more than another. But The Woman in the Window, I think that it was decently accurate to, like, the book plot. So that I enjoyed a lot, just like I enjoyed the book, but I definitely think that I liked the book a little bit more. And then I think that a lot of the horror movies I am obsessed with don't have a book. So that is weird to think about. Okay. That was something that I have learned about myself in this process. But pretty much that's it for today. That's all that I am hoping to read. If I get through all of these books, I definitely want to try and pick up The Hollow Places because I hear a lot of good things about it, and it is a horror book as well. But other than that, I hope that if you're participating in Summerween, you pick up some books that genuinely scare you, and you have a really good time reading. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!